WOLFPACK, assemble! What's going on? It's TC, and this is DnB Talk with Dan Aux. Firstly, if you're new to the WOLFPACK, a very warm welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. And if you find any of the information in this video useful, please smash the like button. If you're not already part of the community, part of the WOLFPACK, hit that subscribe button to receive notifications every time I upload some fresh new information. Also, don't forget to check out my samples and presets for Serum, Vital, Massive, and FM8. Check out my t-shirts and hats. Follow my Anthems playlist on Spotify. Follow my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, links in the description. In this episode of DnB Talk, I have got one of the soldiers of our scene, blazing drum and bass on his show on George FM in New Zealand, DJ, producer, and musician Dan Aux. What are you saying, bruv? That was the most janky intro I think I've ever done. Brap! What's going on?
So Sounds like you might have been having a few beers.
Well, yesterday I went to my missus' grandmother's 80th birthday, and I had a couple beers there and just had a nice meal and stuff, and kind of overslept really, but I feel good for it. I feel a little bit sort of meathead, you know, when you oversleep a little bit, but yeah, how's it going? How you feeling, man? How you going, as they say in New Zealand?
How you going, mate?
How you going, mate?
It's really good to be in New Zealand. The vibes are amazing. We've just come off one of the best, if not the best, summer of raving I think that we've ever had, and I feel it's because everyone knows how lucky we are down this part of the world to kind of get us up and go out and party. And drum and bass has just been as popular as it has ever been. So we've been lucky to get a few special guests come through as well and kind of bring that extra excitement to the rave. So it's been really good, Tom. Thanks for asking.
It's so amazing. Like, when I look at my Spotify stats now, I'm seeing Auckland coming up as city number one some months, you know, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I guess maybe it's something to do with I don't know why it's so big out there. The last tour I did in New Zealand, every show was just absolutely rammed, and it was just the most enjoyable experience. I think. I've done multiple tours in New Zealand for many years, working for different people, and I just always found that the vibes in New Zealand it's just such nice people there. And yeah, so it's not really any questions there. I'm just kind of bigging up your country, bro. It's just amazing out there. I love it so much.
It is. And when was the last time you were here? It would have been around on Tap Ho. It probably would have been going down absolutely massive. Am I right?
Actually, it was a bit more recent than Tap Ho. It was more I think maybe we've been in lockdown for 2 years, so it wasn't actually that long before we went into lockdown.
We've been locked down for 2 years, have we?
I don't know, mate. It's so weird. But it wasn't that long before that, to be honest. I did I think all the major cities, including Wanaka and Christchurch. Christchurch was massive. I did a really vibey show in Auckland, which was just in this sort of venue, but it was so rammed out that it was hard to even get into the venue to play the show. It was amazing. And did Queenstown as well, and I brought my missus out there. It was amazing, bruv. It's just so much vibes out there for DnB. I just love it, man. So from your experience, you're obviously a radio presenter, and you're playing a lot of drum and bass, I understand.
Yeah, so I've been here and on George FM for 13 years.
Yeah.
And I moved here from Australia. So I would come and go as a DJ, and I realised that I just loved the place, and I found George FM had an incredible community of people behind it. And it was just all DJs playing all kinds of different dance music. House music was predominant, but I'd go to barbecues and realise that at midday, my friends and their friends would love to crank drum and bass. And I was like, what is it? It's coming from Australia, drum and bass is not as popular. And no one would really play drum and bass at a barbecue in the middle of the day, back from where I'm from, which is just across the ditch. But I came here and I was like, oh my goodness, these people get it, they know. And it was different types of drum and bass as well. So you've got your liquid drum and bass, which is more suitable, for the earlier times of the day, and then it gets a bit heavier. But yeah, I really just love the fact that they cranked the DnB, and there was a connection between that and reggae music, which is huge here as well, and that roots and dub kind of sound, and then hip hop as well. So yeah, you can kind of like draw a line, you know, kind of connecting all of those. And I could see why, especially with the landscape here and everything else, it's so beautiful that drum and bass connects so well. So yeah, when I first moved here, I was just blown away. I'd already heard of Shapeshifter and supported them in my hometown in Newcastle, and played with a few other DnB people. But yeah, it wasn't until you get to New Zealand and you're like, oh my God, man, this is like a predominantly popular genre of music. So yeah, so that's where it all started for me when I first moved here, and I was inspired by that, and just kind of slowly commercial, you know, the more commercial radio stations obviously steer away from drum and bass, but over the years I've been kind of drip feeding it more and more on my radio show, and it's just gotten to a breaking point where now it's like the
drum and bass show. Do you find that you're kind of, it really reflects in your listenership, and you get a lot of good response from people that you're sort of the only, I don't know if you are the only station really representing drum and bass in New Zealand, but I'm sure that, you know, I know for a fact that you're playing a lot more out there. Do you find that your listenership are really responding to that, and you're getting like feedback from people, and is it really, yeah?
I think that's the thing, is like we've got the resources to actually survey our audience, and the text machine where people text through,
right,
and online where they comment. Like we can actually see that they're responding to these songs and react to it in real time.
How many times a day do you get like rewind?
Rewind's popular, are they?
I don't know if rewind's popular. You just never know. There's a massive like sort of skating community in New Zealand as well, and snowboarding and that kind of stuff. And I think all the music really does kind of connect with that too. The high energy, the kind of adrenaline junkie sort of people who are just sort of into that high energy music. But I'm really interested in sort of digging down into like how you got into the, I guess, the production side of things, because I know you're sort of dabbling in production a bit now. And like, what's your story? You said that you were from Newcastle. Is that Newcastle in the UK?
No.
Newcastle in Australia.
Yeah, probably named after the Newcastle in the UK.
Right.
We don't have Newcastle Brown Ale, but yeah, we do. It's a surf beach. It's a surf town, a couple of hours north of Sydney, and yeah, I kind of started out there. I would go to like jungle warehouse parties.
Oh wow! Okay.
I had like a good friend, Mark N. He had a record store, and he also had a record label that was called Bloody Fist Records. And,
okay.
He would make he'd make jungle drum and bass on the Amiga. He was also a DMC scratch champion DJ, and I'd go and hang out at his record store and just like soak up all of the music that he brought in. There was another record store down the road called PDMS as well, which serviced more commercial type of stuff. But yeah, for the underground drum and bass, it was Mark's shop. And so I'd end up going to these parties that were like a cross between jungle and Gabba, you know.
Jungle techno.
And, yeah, and it was wild. And I just remember loving these parties and trying to introduce my friends to these parties, but I couldn't really get anyone else to come along to these parties with me, so I would just go on my own. And then after going for a while, I realized that it was quite dark. So yeah, I remember we'd pay $2 to go upstairs at a pub and watch Mark and a few other people in the scene there. He would scratch and play his tunes off the Amiga and kind of mix that up between vinyl.
So he would like almost DJ off his Amiga computer.
Yeah, it was wild. And then with the scene as well, there was like a Sydney versus Newcastle scene as well that was quite fun. So the Sydney people, they had songs like "Fuck Sydney," "Fuck Newcastle," and then "Fuck you." So the Sydney crew would come to the Newcastle gigs, and then the Newcastle crew would go to Sydney and represent, and they'd be all like, "Fuck Sydney."
So I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about dancehall culture, and it wasn't actually yesterday, it was the day before, and we were talking about, like, it was Aries, you know, Aries, the producer. He's sort of doing a lot in the jungle sort of side of things right now.
Yep.
And we were talking about how he does like culture clash or jungle clash raves, and how, like, what I'm hearing from you is like reflections of that in the, you know, the songs where you would diss each other's towns. It would be a similar thing when people are doing dubplate clashes. You know, I'm sure it was all love, but you just make those cheats just to, like, you know, get people kind of riled up in the dance. Really, that's really cool, man.
So that's how I got into it, and I kind of just discovered, you know, in the late '90s, the likes of Omni Trio.
Wow. Okay.
And, you know, the Moving Shadow records and stuff like that I loved, and that was it for me. I loved it. But yeah, as I said, it was a bit dark, it was a bit aggressive, so I kind of moved into other nightclubs where there was a bit more of a mixture of people, because I couldn't even get my female friends to come to these gigs. You know, I even paid for them to get in. I think they stayed like 5 minutes. They're like, "Thanks, Dan, thanks for showing us this. We're gonna go now." I'm like, "Oh, all right." And I knew that I loved it then, because I was like, well, I'm going to stick around because this music is wild and I love this, and you girls can go somewhere else. And
I think
and
that's nowadays, you know? Drum and bass is just so inclusive. I don't feel like there's any sort of like creed or, you know, gender that is excluded from this music. So nowadays it seems so open. It's fantastic, you know.
It's gotten so better, and I think one pivot point here in New Zealand, especially if we can fast forward a little bit just for a moment, was when Wilkinson started bringing out big anthems. I noticed a lot more balance in guys and girls coming out to these raves in New Zealand. And, you know, I'd never really seen like girls on guys' shoulders singing along to, like, you know, Afterglow.
Yeah, I remember when Wilkinson was just starting out as a producer, he sent me some tunes when he was like nobody, like not anything. And I was just like super encouraging, because I could see that he had a massive amount of potential. I just kept giving him encouragement, and I'm just so gassed to see that he's like totally smashing it now. I mean, obviously he's a friend of mine, and we did a collab together and that kind of stuff. I mean, his music really changed, sort of like, it wasn't commercial music. It's still incredibly credible. I remember hearing Afterglow for the first time. I was playing after Andy C, I think in Cambridge in the UK. And I just heard this tune and I was like, I thought it might have even been like a Jenna G or something like that. And like a super underground anthem. And then I was like, bruv! I ran up to him and was like tapping him on the shoulder, and he's like, "What's up, cuz?" And I was like, "What is this tune, bro?" And he's like, "Wilkinson." I'm like, "Yes!" I was so gassed. I think I got it. I sort of hustled Andy to get the tune, and massive tune, man. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, and it's not one of them ones that was forced to be kind of commercial. It was an anthem in the underground before it even, you know, became that sort of overground anthem.
Yeah, that's where, you know, you saw the blend of people coming out to these parties and people singing along to drum and bass and holding their phones up to drum and bass, like, or holding their you'd say lighter in the old school terms, but everyone holding their phones up and just seeing like everyone like so happy and smiling and having a good time. It was very different from back in the days when I first started going out, and I'm just so stoked that like it's gotten to this point that we're at now, where you and I can have a chat and talk about drum and bass, and people will like even know what we're talking about. You know what I mean, as well. And there's an audience for it now that's just so big, and it's just such a great movement. You know,
that record store culture you were talking about from when you were in Newcastle. I mean, none of that exists anymore, and I feel like that was a massive part of that sort of era. I feel really sort of nostalgic about all the record stores. There was like 4 or 5 record stores in Bristol, in England, where you could, you know, go and hang out, have a cup of coffee, and like they would play you all the new tunes. And I feel like it's down to people like you now to be almost covering that record store sort of place. There's not many outlets for drum and bass, you know, to premiere tunes. I think a lot of times it's really important. It used to be like they would get these white labels and they would play them to all the people, and it was in a much more underground sense. And they would play them to like the DJs, and then the DJs would feed it out. But yeah, how do you feel about taking on the role of the record store owner in terms?
Got any jungle in, guy?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know what? I could actually drop you a little VT right now, bro.
Go on.
Any jungling guy?
I know you can't hear it.
Jaded jungle just swinging on the vine this morning, mate. I'm telling you, this could turn Ari Krishna into a bad.
That's what I'm saying. I know you can't hear it, but the people will be able to hear it. I've never done that on the DnB Talk. When I do that, I do like a lot of live streams doing production, and I'm obviously interacting with the comments, and they always call for that jingle, bro. But yeah, so how do you feel about having sort of taking on that kind of role now of having to sort of educate people?
I'm glad you made that link. I really am, Tom, because I haven't made that link before. But you're right. Like, it was going and sitting down with people and having coffee and talking, and like getting hard to find records as well, and finding something that no one else had heard before that you knew that a lot of people are going to love. And that's what I get to do in my job today. It's so fun to do, and I guess I am that record store guy now. But one of my favorite things, you know, like I love having like the unreleased dub plates and the bootlegs and all that kind of stuff. They're cool, but I think one of my favorite things is when I've been playing like an unreleased record that some producer has trusted me with, and it finally gets a release and everyone else gets to hear it. Yeah. And I guess that record store kind of, you know, dishing it out mentality coming through, got who wants a copy of this?
Yeah.
You know,
there's five white labels.
Yeah.
And they weren't cheap in Australia. I know that, you know, getting a vinyl in Australia was, you know, you're going to pay like $10 or something, or maybe even more, like 15 or something. Like,
we're paying like $20, $30 for like just a one thing.
I know, it's crazy, like how much it's changed. And that whole thing was like a worldwide thing. You know, there was a record store in San Francisco, there was one in Toronto, there was one in, you know, Los Angeles, or like 2 or 3 in Los Angeles. And I sort of came into this scene on the tail end when all the record stores were just slightly sort of starting to shut up shop, and my distribution company, because I was doing records and stuff, they were like, oh, it's really hard to like be able to sell records now. And we've all gone on to this sort of, our distribution companies are now working with like Spotify and people like that, and it's such a change from like a corporate from a underground model where it was set up by people who loved the music to this sort of super corporate sort of environment where everyone has to be sort of like an internet superstar in order to be able to get anywhere in this music. And I feel like I miss a little bit of like, I wish that some of the underground guys had set up networks that we could, you know, keep some of the music in this sort of bubble of being a little bit more underground. But I guess that's just me being an old man, sort of like reminiscing on the past a little bit. I remember when I first signed to like Valve Recordings, Dillinger and Lemon D were like moaning about the record sales, and like when I was getting like 3 bags for a record, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm getting so much money. But like there was so much more money in the thing before I got into it. And nowadays it's hard to even like give music away. How do you feel about like, that's why I feel like your role is so important to help spread the word on certain new tunes, man. You know, like I think you and, you know, there's certain other radio people and people with like underground mix shows as well. It must, you must get a lot of promos. A lot of promos. I get a lot. How do you have a guy for that who like sifts through all the things? No. It's just you.
Guy,
yeah.
Like it's just me. I do the whole show by myself.
Right.
This is primetime drive radio.
Yeah.
5 days a week, and then we respin the best mixes on Saturday.
Okay.
So it's and it's all me. I'm listening to all the songs. I'm communicating with everybody. And just kind of like building this thing. But I think it's the one key thing that I always come back to, especially when I talk to everyone, is hype. So it's like, especially with drum and bass culture, people will come to George FM first and listen because they know that's what I want them to know. This is where they can hear the music first, right? So then you just build on that hype. So my favorite thing to do is to get an exclusive record that I can work into the show and play 5 days before, a week before, 2 weeks before, whatever, and just build that hype for that artist and kind of help them get the best release. There's a lot of big record labels that still probably don't get that hype as much, and they want you to like play the song on the day that it's out and do the interview so people can go straight to Spotify and listen to it and stream it. But I still feel like when you go back to that old school record store days as well, and the 5 DJs that had the dub plates or the white labels, that was where the hype was built also. And then people in the nightclubs would hear the song, they'd go home, tell their friends about it, come back next week. And I feel it's like the same thing happening on George FM. And that's how I try and like run. I find the most successful songs that work on a radio station have been built through hype and not just on the day of release, here is this song, you know what I mean? And it's kind of allowing people to digest and kind of, they might hear it 2 or 3 times that week and they may not like it at first, but they may come to understand it after the third listen.
I find that, I need to listen to a record 4 or 5 times before I really understand it. And nowadays, with the amount of records that come through, it's really hard to give records that much of your day sometimes. I'm getting, 100, 200 promos a week. And I try and stay current as much as I can by, I'll flick through them. And if something really good comes along, then I'll listen to it. I mean, I know there's not much DJing going on in the UK, but I'm still keeping my DJ box. I kind of didn't do this and didn't get my DJ box up to date for a long time. So I had to backtrack a lot. But now I'm like super up to date with everything. I've recently been doing a lot of like organization and just ready to get back into the rave, bruv. So I'm like trying to make sure that I keep current with drum and bass, because I feel like there's a thing that if you don't stay on that dub plate thing and make sure that you keep all the freshest tunes, you're not going to have those anthems when it comes to DJing out. And do you play many DJ gigs as like, do you play out much?
It's, I've kind of taken a bit of a break since COVID.
Right.
COVID kind of like, that was, I don't know, it hit people a lot harder, but for me, I'm a little bit older and I've been doing this for, I've been DJing for over 20 years.
Yeah.
So I don't just play drum and bass either. Like I play big mixture of party music. I'm like house and I make that kind of stuff as well. So for me over the last summer, I've just been kind of taking a bit of a break, but playing some cool little gigs and warming back into things. I want the whole world to open up. Like New Zealand is not the same. Doesn't feel the same without the world involved as well.
That's a really interesting perspective that I'd like to talk about actually, because from our point of view in the rest of the world, especially in England, I'm seeing these DJs and they're going out and playing these incredible gigs. And I never thought of it from the other point of view, that New Zealand's kind of missing the rest of the world because you're living in this sort of freedom bubble. And I'm so jealous. I'm not going to lie. Like I can be, like my heart is open. I'm very sort of like, Buddhist mentality when it comes to sort of living, and I'm very sort of like love and compassion, but I have the compassion for myself to recognize that you know, if I do have jealousy feelings, it's okay. Like, it's not a bad thing to be feeling jealous of these artists. And I'm seeing these artists actually sitting in hotels as well. I think Wilkinson is sitting in a hotel right now and has been. He's got like 5 days left. But I never considered it from that point of view where New Zealand people are like, oh, we kind of want the rest of the world to open up as well. I guess there's a lot of connections and, you know.
Huge. And shout out Wilkinson. I'll be supporting him very soon on a couple of dates on his tour. So
amazing.
I guess I've gotten to a point in my DJ career where I just like to pick and choose what I do a little bit more than just being out and about, messing about in the clubs every weekend. But so it's like New Zealand works really well because there's so many young people here and they get to go out and experience the world. And some of the stories that they bring back with them about the raves that they were at in the UK and the festivals that they were at in the Northern Hemisphere and Ibiza and all that kind of stuff, they kind of go away and they bring that culture back here and they bring those songs back here and they'll request them on the radio or they'll have a story or a memory. And there's always so many young people coming and going and there's so many DJs coming and going. Like before COVID, it was just insane the amount of international touring DJs that would just come. It was like my job was just so easy. I'd have someone in every other day and we'd be having a guest mix or a good old chat or a catch up or a beer or something like that. And now it's a lot different. It works a lot better when there's a real cultural exchange, not only via Zoom like we're doing right now, but also in real life and not just a one-way thing as well. One thing I am loving though, Tom, I have to tell you this. It's about bloody time that New Zealand had their day in the sunshine and all the rest of you guys were jealous of us because I've spent the whole time being jealous of you guys. I cannot, I look at some of those lineups and I'm like Chasing Status, Andy C, Pendulum, like you name it. Like there's so many and I'm like, I wish I could go over there and kind of and experience the culture and the raves and everything.
I mean, it's only like 36 hours on a plane.
Yeah, exactly. But like, it's just, it's so crazy. Like I've just always been jealous of all the Ibiza parties and everything else that's gone on over there. And it seems like you guys are just so set up for this. And it's hurt me because I can see that it's hit you guys really hard. No one loves a whinge more than the UK.
Than Poms.
Yeah. I've learned over the last year that no one loves a rave more than you guys either. Like you guys so much, man, and it hurts to see it because I've got a lot of friends obviously that I'm connected with and I see their posts and some of them are lucky to come here to party, but yeah, man, you guys love a rave, you love a whinge, and we love you for that. It's awesome.
It's been a real lifestyle for me. You said you've been doing this for 20 years. It's been like 15 years for me of like night shifts, playing all over the world, loads of different raves and stuff. And it was so embedded in my soul and my sort of like my energy that I was, being able to play the freshest tunes to crowds and just, smash up dances and bring as much positive vibes and energy to people. And I really love the thing I love most about my job as a DJ and producer is there's nothing evil about it. It's literally just bringing like good vibes from the studio, package them into little tunes, take them out and just bring happiness to people. And I really miss it, man. I miss, being able to sort of like stand up on a stage and just be like, hello, here I am. Let's go. Yeah. And just laying down some dance with some serious pressure. And I just feel like, I've enjoyed the time off in a certain sense because it's enabled me to address a lot of things about myself in terms of just how over the last 15 years my whole life was so disorganized. So I had like 15 years worth of paperwork in my garage that I took to like get shredded, and my computer was a bit of a mess, and like my mind actually was a bit of a mess. I've taken on meditation and just working on systems to become more organized. So hopefully when things get back to relative normality, I'll be a stronger, more present person to be able to, you know, do the job but in a better way. And I think I'll probably be kinder to myself actually, because I definitely didn't sleep a lot for 15 years, and having a sleep routine is just massively important, man. So I don't know how you feel about having done, I'm sure you've been doing, if you've been DJing a long time, the sleep aspect of it is a big thing, right?
Throw in a few kids as well, you know, along the way,
Right.
and it becomes really hard, doesn't it? On the other end of the day, those kids wake up at 6 a.m. no matter what. You know, if you get home from DJing at 4, there's not much time for sleep, is there? But
No.
I think you touched upon something really good there, Tom, and that is being more present. I think we've all learned in this past year or so that being more present is so important, and you know, paying things with your time is a very important thing as well. Your time and attention span is worth a lot, and I think everyone's come to realize that as well. And one thing that I love about, you know, I hate that you guys are locked down, the rest of the world are locked down, but one thing that I've loved is the wealth of knowledge that you lot have been sharing since you haven't been out DJing and doing gigs everywhere else every other night. Like, you know, all of your presets that you put up online, like all of your packs that you put up. I know the recent ones, the jungle pads, they're dope.
Yeah, man.
I can't wait to get my hands on those.
Oh,
and have a
fantastic. Thanks so much. I mean, for me, that is really trying to give something back. I don't really charge a lot of money for those presets. And I try to like make music live as well every now and then. I did like this 30 tunes in 30 days challenge. I managed to do 28 tunes in 30 days. I didn't pass the challenge, which I as a sort of highly competitive human spirit on this planet, like I really wanted to be able to like do that. And I feel like there's another sort of 30 tunes in 30 days challenge or something along those lines coming. But mainly it's about educating, you know, new producers. And I had the most wonderful experience doing this masterclass for like a university where you know, I answered a load of questions about like my career and how you get into the business and that kind of stuff. And then I listened to some of the students' tunes and they're like amazing, bro. Like the standard of music coming through and the tunes I get from unknown people, it's just like so much better levels than, you know, someone might come to me and be like, I've been producing for 3 years, and I'm like, here we go. I'm going to get one of them tunes, one of the 3-year tunes, and I listen to it. I'm like, wow, this is not this is an old soul in this tune. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing what's going on. And actually, to touch on that, is there some New Zealand talent that I need to know about? I mean, I'm sure I hate putting people on the spot when it comes to this kind of stuff, but in general, are you feeling like there's any waves of producers or crews in New Zealand?
It's just gotten so much better. Before we move on to that, I just want to, obviously shout out yourself, but there's some other DJs and producers like Paula and Bryson starting up their Patreon. DJ Zing, shout out Ben, man. He's been helping so many people as well. And there's just a ton of them, and everyone else kind of like, I would send demos to so many people, and I'd just be like, hey, get your ears across this, let me know what you think, and they'd send back notes and feedback, and I feel like that they wouldn't have that time if they weren't too busy. So yeah, big shout out to all of you guys for like sharing the knowledge, and that's what I love about drum and bass and the community I've found the most is that everyone's so open and so able to help each other. When it comes to New Zealand music, it's just getting better and better. There's these guys that we've been smashing on George FM, their new single, they're called Parappas. I don't know if you've heard of those guys.
No, I haven't heard of them. I need to check that out.
Yes.
Let me get my
they've
notes.
got this big kind of stadium kind of drum and bass sound at the moment. So they've been really impressing me. What's the song called? Need You Now is their latest kind of anthem. So that's been doing really well on George FM.
Awesome.
There's a guy called Burnsy. Have you heard of Burnsy?
No, man.
Oh, Burnsy is sick. He's got these like dub packs that he puts out. One of them's like his Thomas the Tank Engine thing. It's just filthy.
Okay, all right.
He's got a few other ones. He's done like a Britney Spears bootleg, but all of his originals are sick as well. So Burnsy, Burnzy. Where else?
That sounds like something that my fan base would quite enjoy.
Oh yeah, get on Burnsy. Yeah.
And they like that kind of stuff. They're all jokers. Like the WOLFPACK in my Discord server, they're always having a laugh about different things. So like, I feel like they would enjoy a Thomas the Tank Engine bootleg. Boom!
Why are you listening to it?
No, I'm not. I will do. I can play it over the thing and see if I could. I'll see if I can find it and I'll dub it in on the edit.
Who else we got? There's this guy called Stu Habit. He does stuff on Habit.
Yeah.
There's guys called Floatus. You might have heard of Floatus.
I have.
It's kind of like a New Zealand Perth there. There's so many to name, but I think the one thing is that what I've been trying to like get across to artists, I'm so lucky to have in my studio, is that one time I had one international guy a little while ago in the studio, and I said, "Hey mate, since you've been here, like how long?" I said, "Since you've been here, how much New Zealand drum and bass music have you come across? Do you have any like favorite artists that you've met or songs that you've heard?" And they like couldn't name one person. And then I thought, okay, it's at this point that I'm not doing my job correctly. So I kind of made it a thing to start educating people more or talk to these artists more before they come in, to make sure that they're aware of a few different artists or up and comers or because like I really think that New Zealand is kind of exporting some of the best drum and bass there is at the moment. And
it's really interesting because I've been touring New Zealand since like 2008, I think, and I used to play for this guy called Truth from Christchurch. He's gone on to do like dubstep now, and he's really massively successful in like the dark dubstep thing. He moved to Los Angeles for a while, I think, and he always used to recount these stories of how supportive the New Zealand government was of musicians and musical artists. He was like, "Oh yeah, bro, they're just buying me a ticket from like from Christchurch to Auckland. If I've got a gig, the New Zealand government will like help me to go play a gig or something." And I was like, wow, like that would never happen in England. If I had like a gig in Newcastle, the government are not going to buy me a bus ticket, you know? And I love that, you know, supportive nature of the, you know, so supportive of culture. Which is so strange because we don't get any of that in England. There's not really even like, I don't feel like there's any kind of support in that sense.
Haven't you retrained yet, Tom? Why haven't you retrained?
I have retrained, bro. I'm now a broadcaster and podcaster now. I'm it's cool. I actually get similar butterflies and nerves, like, you know, getting up this morning and then realizing I had to do an interview with, it's just a talk really, but a talk with you, and like,
I love it.
I still had I get the same sort of like little burst of adrenaline before we go live, and it's the same thing. It's no different to playing gigs really, apart from having screaming people and people reaching over the decks and rewinding my tunes or whatever. So it's a similar thing.
Man, I know exactly how you feel. Like, even, there was periods where I get to, I have interviewed my heroes over the years and reached out to them. And Ronnie Size was definitely one that came to mind from your neck of the woods over there. And I got up at 6 a.m. to chat to Ronnie Size.
Yeah.
Like, the time it doesn't make it easy at all. But
we definitely had some issues with our organisation to try and get.
I appreciate it for once, for all the times I've woken up at 6 a.m. to talk to. I appreciate it, and I love seeing the fact that you got up. It means so much to me that you got up at 6 a.m. with your coffee there as you sip away, and you're ready to chat to me. Like it's the tables have turned, and it's cool, man.
This is going to be the recurring theme of the talk, is that how the tables have turned upon you, England. But yeah, I mean, I really like getting up early in the mornings. I'm not going to lie. It's something that I find has a great energy. Recently, I've been getting up a lot earlier, and you get that all night energy, but without having stayed up all night. You got that kind of fresh head. I know some other fellow producers that are up way earlier than me making music in the studio, and that
making in the studio, like when you're making stuff and you're being creative and stuff like that, do you find that on an empty stomach with a little pot of coffee is good, like after fasting all night and you've got that wild kind of energy? Or do you have breakfast first and you kind of like sink into your day a little bit and you let that fuel you? Like, what does it work for you?
I've been experimenting with intermittent fasting quite a lot recently, and I find I've been doing a one meal a day thing, and the last 2 days I had like meals all day, and I was just rinsed of all my energy. And the days when I don't eat until 5 p.m, so I wait until all the way till 5 p.m, and then I just have that one meal, and then I can kind of relax, and all of your energy just goes into your stomach to do the digesting. And I found that just the intermittent fasting thing has been so fantastic from an energy point of view. So yeah, I mean, I definitely do not function well on a big breakfast. I will just go straight back to sleep and not really have the energy to make music. In terms of making music, though, I find myself it's more of a thing now for me to sit and do nothing, and then the ideas come to my head and then I execute upon them. Because I've been making music for such a long time, I don't find myself wrapped up in a technical aspect of things as much as I used to. So really, it's more about coming up with the really good ideas, and just not even trying to force ideas, but just allowing ideas to come through you. Just from the universe, just like it's like light beams going through your mind, and sometimes they just can't be ignored. I write down everything that I think in the day in like journals, but sometimes it comes up 2 or 3 times. I'm like, okay, I have to execute on that idea, no matter how ridiculous it is. Like I made 3 tunes just on hardware recently, without using sort of any plugins or stuff on the computer, just literally on the hardware, like some more kind of jungle tunes. And just from an experimentation point of view, making different music, or it's still drum and bass, but making music in the way that it used to be made has just really opened up my kind of like, you get the thing about the hardware is you get to where you want to be so much faster. It's so bizarre. You're not putting 100 plugins on something. You're just happy that you got a beat rolling in the sampler. And I don't think anyone's doing that anymore. I feel like there's nobody sort of, maybe High Contrast actually. I feel like High Contrast is still using some old hardware stuff. And what a phenomenal.
Nostalgic on me, Tom. You're getting all nostalgic. I love it.
The tunes are quite good, I'll send you them. They're not really radio tunes. One of them might be actually. One of them is like a piano sort of house, not house tune, but like really uplifting kind of hardcore vibes. And I'm excited to like work that up into something a bit more. So
I love that you talked about where the music comes from. I feel that's important, and I feel that you've discovered that. Has that been in like the past year during COVID, or have you always felt that the music has like come through you? Because I believe that as well. I believe that we're just more of a conduit, and the ideas come and they're for the people. And I know, especially like when you send me stuff, 9 times out of 10, I'm playing your tunes on the radio. Like I'm going wild for them. You know what I mean? It makes me so happy to hear what you've created, and that's the whole idea of like that flow of creativity comes through you make it, you finish it off, you take care of that little baby, and then you send it out. and that makes so many people happy. Like, you're just doing an incredible job.
I feel like I used to just grind all the time, but it was a learning experience to just really understand the technical aspect of what it was that I'm doing. And now I'm in a place where I'm like, I know how to EQ a beat. I know how to record my drums. I know how to find good bass sounds. I know how to make a melody. I know how to record a top line or some vocals. So, and it used to be, I think, just learning how that even sounded or felt when you would record something and then put it in your tune. And now I feel like I'm at a place where I've done a lot of that, and I feel I never really recognized that it was that the things were being delivered to me kind of on from an energy point of view. And I think I listened to a lot of interviews with like hip hop artists and artists like Pharrell, and you know, they all seem to have this feeling that things were delivered, and I never recognized in myself that it was just a channel through you, because we're only here for like however long, however many minutes or hours we have on this planet, spinning around a big earth, and however long it's going to last. So just understanding that you only have that limited time and your music only has a limited life. So like, it's so amazing that you get to, I'm just in awe actually of the fact that we have the ability to make these vibrations that can make people happy. It's just crazy, right?
And especially in a time like, you know, what we've experienced, it's just unparalleled over the past year. What I also enjoy about drum and bass is watching an artist at work, and following an artist's body of work. So I really kind of got to learn a bit of, or have a lot more respect for a bootleg, as people tend to send more stuff through to me unreleased, and then you might hear their next release might have those similar elements in it. So it's like when a painter studies painting, or is doing like sketches, and they do all these sketches and they kind of build up to this masterpiece, and eventually, and it's like, so you've got your masterpiece over there and you've got all your bootlegs, you know, over here, which is how they show you how they got to this masterpiece. And I think it's incredible. Not many other genres do it so much as drum and bass, but drum and bass has got this dubplate kind of bootleg culture where you're experimenting as an artist, and then you take what you've learned and you put it into your single release, which is an original release. And I just love following like the path of an artist through their bootlegs and their and stuff that never gets released, and then eventually they come through with this like amazing song. And I think that's an incredible thing about drum and bass, is that the artists are really showing their work and not hiding it away so much.
It's a massive part of drum and bass, the bootleg culture, making unofficial remixes and having tracks, you know, specials, VIPs, and it all comes from the dancehall culture. You know, if you can turn up as a DJ and you've got a VIP of all your biggest tracks, and it's like a different version, so that the crowd can be sort of astounded as a DJ that you turned up and you're playing the same tune, but it's a little bit different. It is amazing. And playing unreleased material and not just coming and playing, you know, like all your greatest hits. Although I do believe that you have to play all your hits if you are a DJ. You can't just turn up and play like some minimal set if you're known for one thing. But it's really true. It is really true that I don't see this in other genres. I feel people are quite more reserved about their works in progress than in this genre, where, and I love the way that you draw parallels between visual art and musical art, because I don't really see a distinction between all the art forms. I see comedians a lot of times, like listening to podcasts from comedians, different people, and they talk about testing out set pieces, testing out, you know, bits, and I guess bits would be dub plates, you know, and it's the same thing. And I hear them like explaining their experiences in gigs where certain tunes don't go down, or certain, you know, I feel like you have to give a tune a bit more than just one play in a set. in order to be able to have tested it in all the right environments for it to be like a yes or a no from a point of view of like, I'm going to continue to move forward with this track. And I guess it's the same thing, you know, you'll change stuff. And I just love the evolution of the process. And you were saying about all the sketches that it takes to make that really big tune. And from, you know, new producers, I feel like that is such an important lesson to just not give up because that first tune isn't, you know, the one. It'll be the 100th tune or the 200th tune that is the one that really, you know, captures the imagination of the people that hear it. So that's such fantastic advice, man.
It's funny that you say that, Tom, because I don't think Wilkinson would mind me saying this, but his next single, which is released at the end of this week.
Yeah, I just got it, big tune.
Right. I got the master sent, but they didn't just relabel the master. It's actually labelled, like I couldn't believe this, but you know, Mark has said this to me before, like how many versions it takes to get. Sometimes it takes 5, other times it takes more. But I don't know if he did this on purpose, but it's like Keep Dancing version 53.
Right, yeah. I'm not sure if I used to do this thing when I was doing remixes for major labels, and I would always send off the first version as version 9 because I wanted I wanted the people who were like the A&R guy that I was corresponding with, just so that they'd be like, label number 9. Okay, maybe I don't need to send him back on so many changes. He's obviously been working on this really hard over the last.
You just ruined it for everyone now watching this. Now everyone's going to be labeling their demos.
12.
Version 7.
103. Fantastic, man. Well, you know, I can't believe we've been speaking for almost an hour. That's fantastic. Like, how long have you got now? Like, what's your plans for? Well, I guess it's like Tuesday right now there.
It's night time here. I'm kind of like the family's probably expecting me home at any point. But I haven't even had a chance to plug my own music either.
I'd love to hear about what you've got going on. I'd actually like to talk to you about your production as well, really.
Yeah. It's something that is a work in progress, really. Like as I mentioned at the start when we first started chatting, being into drum and bass, it's what got me into what I'm doing right now. If it wasn't for drum and bass and even listening to some of the DJ mixes on Triple J in Australia, I used to listen to it was kind of like a mixture of happy hardcore and jungle. Yeah. And I didn't even know what the songs were, but I would just like record them on cassette tape and record the mixes and listen to them. And I got into production years down the track, and I was so daunted by drum and bass, and I watched these tutorials, or I'd have friends that make drum and bass, and they'd be putting like 5 or 6 snares on top of each other and all these really technical things that they would do. And I was like, oh man, that seems so advanced. Like I dare not try that just yet. I don't think I'd know what to do. Like gone were the days of the Amiga computer, and it was more Cubase through to Logic through to Ableton or something like that. And so I was just teaching myself. I moved to New Zealand full time. I quit my day job to be a DJ, do radio here at George FM, and just pursue what I was passionate about. Like that's all that I wanted to do, was just do what I loved. And I felt that DJing for a living was something that could work, and doing radio was something that could work. And along the way, I'd like produce some cool tunes. So I kind of more fell into house music, and other experimenting with other different genres as well. And then it wasn't until COVID hit last year, and I remembered that Fred V had been in. I think he was one of my last guests, and we've hung out a few times, and we were having a beer, and I said, you know, one day I'm going to make drum and bass music. I really am. It's what I love.
Join us on the dark side.
Really, I'm going to do it one day. I'm going to stop everything else, you know, and I'm going to make some drum and bass. And he was like, oh, that's really cool. I'll send you some bits that I like to use, you know. He sent over some bits and add that to my collection of other bits. And COVID happened, and then I sat down and I went, jungle music.
Right.
Go. You know, and I'm like, okay, how does this work? Let's figure it out. Yeah. And I guess with all the gear that I built up in my studio over the years, I realized that I actually had all the right things to be able to technically create drum and bass. And I'd soak up all of the tutorials over the years, like, bits from everyone really that were putting stuff out there. But I never really made drum and bass. So yeah, it was like only a little bit over a year ago that I tried to really do it. And it was through Fred V and a few others that inspired me. And then I'd literally written my first drum and bass idea, and it's actually will be released as a song at some point. Later
fantastic!
With a vocalist, but it was I'd literally done one song, and then I get a message from Steve Fantasy. G'day, mate. What's up, geezer?
Yeah.
You want to do a tune together? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I literally just sat down to put some ideas down that week, and then Steve's on the blow. I was like, this is so weird.
Again, it's the universe, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. And I was at I think everyone went through a hard stage in COVID as well. So I was not only going through my hardest stages mentally, but also, at that point, it was like, what am I going to do with my time? I've still got to go and do my job on the radio. I've got kids now that are at home that need looking after, wife's at home, working full-time from home. Shit's crazy, but I need to find time to do this. And I kind of was looking at the rest of the world going, man, I'm so jealous of those people that are stuck in their studios all day and got nothing to do but write music. Like, that would be amazing, And it was hard to kind of sum all that stuff up in my head, but it was at my lowest point that Steve actually contacted me and he said, let's do a tune together. And I was like, I've never really written that much drum and bass before, but I'm willing to give it a shot, So he kind of orchestrated that song from his studio, and we sent bits back and forward and stuff like that. And I teed up a vocalist over here from New Zealand, and he smashed a killer vocal. So I think that song, it's like we only just finished it like a little while ago. So it took almost a year to do, writing lyrics on WhatsApp messages and all that kind of stuff. And it was really fun to do with Steve. And me and Steve became best mates. We'd talk every day pretty much. And it wasn't just about music either. And he's just such a good guy. I've got so much time for him. And
yeah, man.
He's just really, really supported what I've done. And I get to send him songs, and he'll give honest feedback as well. Actually, I released my first drum and bass song on DnB Vibes.
Okay.
That's in December.
Cool. We'll have to make sure that there's a link to that track so everyone can have a listen to it.
That was my first ever little release, and that was I wanted to do something a little bit old school, a little bit kind of Dillinger inspired, kind of Shy FX inspired. Yeah. And because that's what I love, and I just need to be it was just a little nugget. But as soon as I sent that to Steve, he's like, "That's a vibe, bro. Just finish it off.
Bro." I see. I love that encouragement and positive people. Steve is one of the most positive individuals that I could be blessed to have in my life, man. It's a similar thing. Me and Steve did a tune together as well, and I wasn't really in the right place to even do a tune. He kind of just turned up on my doorstep and was like, "Right, we're doing a tune." I'm like, "Okay, wicked." But I love that energy, and it's whenever I speak to him, there's never a negative vibe, bro. And I just love that. I love positive people that when I get off the phone, I feel energized. And it's just so rare now to even some of my good mates, I feel like they fall into a hole of everything is not as good as it could be. But I just feel like, where's the gratitude? There's got to be so much more gratitude for being, alive, being awake today. I just feel it can be so difficult. I love trying to uplift anyone that I talk to, and getting those tunes from people it's just like food for me. And it's so nice to be able to be a bit more of a positive individual. And I've been trying to work on that more than anything else in these times. It's difficult. It's not always easy to be, there's always two sides to your mind, right? And there's always that negative energy side, and you got to just let that go. It's got to go, bro. I remember there's been some times in my life where I fell into that negative energy trap, and there's so much amazing resources on the internet now, and friendships that I have that with people that will just literally just lift me out of that. But yeah, I'd love to hear some of your music as well. It'd be great to hear what you've got working on. And
to tell you the truth, because I'm such a big fan of yours, and I've been playing your music for so long. It's kind of like it's funny, isn't it? Like who you would send your demos or your ideas to, you know what I mean? Like I know you supported, when I had that release, you supported Pull Up on DnB Vibes.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful for that. And you retweeted it, and you shouted me out and everything. But yeah, I think it's quite daunting, isn't it, to send like, hey, here's a demo, or I didn't think, it's hard to know whether people are ready to receive demos from like kind of up and coming, you know, producers with ideas. And so, yeah, I think I've never really like tried to bug you too much.
I think I'm very open to receiving promos or demos from people. I never really like giving feedback on things that are being released that day, you know, if something's out, I'm like, okay, you've kind of framed the artwork, and you put your signature on it, and you know, from my point of view, once you release a track, you kind of relinquish your ownership, and it then becomes the property of the listener, not the property of the producer. And I don't feel like it would be my place to offer any feedback from a production standpoint on anything that was released. But by all means, you know, send me stuff. I listen to everything. It's not just, you know, people in your position where you've got a radio show and, you know, an outlet and that kind of stuff. Even, you know, complete unknowns, if they send me music, as long as it's not like 100 tunes and it's got to be an MP3 from like, you know, some people want to send you like the 24-bit 96K WAV, and I just don't have enough space on my computer to listen to that. And it's going to take too long, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool thing as well. Like obviously I attract a lot of demos as well.
Yeah.
Like I get sent stuff, and you've got to tread really carefully with the feedback that you give. But it's such an honor to be someone to ask you and give feedback. Like I really try and like reply back to everybody that asks me. But I also, it's hard to also express to them, hey bro, like I'm also trying to do my thing as well, and this takes so much time, like limited time that you have, and you try and use it the best way that you can. It's like I'm also trying to like write a great drum and bass song that sounds amazing that play it.
It's so difficult to manage your time, and I found that in service to other people has allowed me to gain more time, as ridiculous as it sounds. You know, being in service to people, and you know, that's one of my I've been trying to work out my values as this sort of, you know, being on the planet. And I think being in service to others has allowed me to somehow find more time to be able to do stuff. It's been really interesting. And the other thing I found is if you're busy, then there's more time than you think. There's always time when you just sat there doing nothing and wishing that you had something to do. So I've been learning how to sort of plan out my days so that I'm literally busy like for every second of the day is planned out. And that has allowed me to just get so much more done. And I find that, you know, I used to have I had 5 email addresses and loads of emails that I just didn't reply to. And I've got this whole system in place now about how I get organized, which I've actually sort of spoken about on multiple podcasts now. So I'm not sure if I want to sort of go into it again, because people will be like, Tom, are you losing your mind? You're like repeating yourself. But, you know, it's been such a good time learning how to sort of organize my mind in order to be able to deal with all the things that are coming through, man. It is tough to find time though to get in the studio. I feel your pain.
What you're doing as well, like especially with all of these that you do and everything else, and the packs that you put out, the presets and everything that helps producers. Like, you're adding so much value to the scene, and you're adding so much value to people on individual levels as well. I do need to shout you out, Tom, because my first ever remix that got released on Viper Recordings, it was a remix of Dossa and Locust, and it was one of my dreams to have a release on Viper. It was one of my favorite record labels. Big shout out to Brendan, who's been such a huge support as well. But I know when I was putting that remix together, that was like my first, I guess, drum and bass remix that I tried last year. And it was I forget what packet, the presets it was of yours, but I was just playing around with a bunch of those and kind of trying to link those together. You'd probably listen back to that and go, oh no, that's preset number 56.
You know, I don't, they're a bit of a blur. I kind of just really just flow state my way through those packs. They do take quite a long time to produce.
But you're adding value to people like me who are just really getting into it, you know. But you're giving me the right sounds that I need. That I can, you know, send that to a record label and they can go, man, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, from a product standpoint, I'm really trying to bring the latest and greatest sounds that I can bring to people and not have them be too ridiculously expensive. I find that there's a lot of companies out there where you'll buy a pack, and this isn't like, I'm not dissing people. I'm not saying like people are running their businesses in the wrong way. But what I'm saying is, like, from my own ethos, I've bought so many packs in my life and been disappointed and been a bit sort of like disheartened that I spent £15 on a pack and there's 2 sounds in there that I can use. And like, as a producer, it hurts my soul a little bit. So I put all my energy into producing these packs so that you get them and you're like, yes, you know, every single sound, or at least 90%. I might throw a couple curveballs in there, but that's from a creative standpoint. You know, there might be one of the curveball sounds in the pack of jump up basses, which is actually a pad that you end up going like, like going down a different rabbit hole. So I like to throw those in too. But 90% of the presets on there is, you know, they're done with love. You know, I sit there and I really try to push some kind of vibe into it and make sure that it's a good vibe on there.
I think it just helps. It helps young artists and other artists understand how those sounds are made and the richness that you want to look for in a sound, and also kind of the layers that are involved in that. And it's not just like just putting like one kind of sine wave in there, but there's other elements that go into it to make this full sound.
And I've learned so much doing it as well. You know, I did 1,000 presets for Massive, and you know, for a whole year of making sounds for that pack, and I learned just everything about that synth, and it was a great experience. And I was never really a synth guy before I started doing presets, and now, like, I would say to myself that I'm kind of, if I want a sound, if I've got a sound in my head, I could probably create that sound, which from a, you know, learning point of view is just fantastic. I'm loving that, man. I mean, lockdown has just been incredible for the learning from my standpoint. You know, I've learned how to do 3D visuals and, you know,
so much, man. You've got to do stuff. Like, there's so much you've got to do as a DJ producer these days as well. Like, you've got to
jack of all trades.
Great online. You got to have a great online personality and do all these memes and everything else. I actually shout out Mosey. Mosey's doing some great drum and bass memes.
Yeah. There's like almost people who can make a living out of doing memes now, isn't it? It's crazy how the world is changing, and you know, I don't know, NFTs and all that stuff. It's just crazy, bro.
He's working so hard, man. And shout out Mr. Raving Face. So, do you know Mr. Raving Face?
Yeah, I was just on his podcast yesterday, day before yesterday. So he does a podcast. Yeah, we just recorded a podcast for him. So yeah, he seems like a really nice guy, bro. You know, like real.
Yeah, he's just a young dude that just loves the euphoria of drum and bass, and just watching him, kind of the way he reacts to music. It's really unique how he's doing those little things up on his Instagram.
He's getting into production now too.
Good on him. I told him he needed to release a Mr. Raving Face kind of sample pack, which is just all of his catchphrases. Yes.
That's a really good idea.
Passionate. I love finding people. I love finding people like Mr. Raving Face, and I guess that's all the part of the inquisitive nature of how I kind of bring drum and bass to my radio show. It's not just like the top of the cream of the crop that you play and you only look for those particular artists. Like I'm out there kind of digging through, listening to the promos, watching what people do online, and finding those young, enthusiastic people. And I get to give them a platform as well. It's so awesome. I feel so lucky to kind of be able to do that as well and give value to them. Like it's just, it's really cool.
Good vibes, mate. Real good vibes. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you staying in the office a little bit longer to talk to me and to just share some of your energy with all the people. It's a wicked vibe, man. So yeah,
I could do this for days. Like
I'm the same. I really enjoy this whole broadcasting thing. Yeah. I'm so
all the people I've met like over the past year and even over the years as they've come through. Like it's just all the drum and bass people. Like I used to always walk away from my shows going, man, that Denny Bird guy, he's a lovely guy. Man, that Sub Focus guy, he is such a nice guy. And they've all got their own different personalities as well. And more often than not, I'd walk away and talk about the people the drum and bass people that came through were the really friendly ones and the ones that kind of had time to chat and weren't, didn't come with as much ego.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like, I think that's infectious as well.
I've often said that if you want to survive in drum and bass, you have to not be a dick. It's just really because, it's such a small, you think it's a big wide world, but there's only sort of like 2 promoters in Los Angeles, 1 promoter in Vancouver, 1 promoter in Toronto, there's 1 in Beijing, there's 1 in Shanghai.
There's New Zealand now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's loads in New Zealand. You'd be fine. You could go out there and be an arsehole. But you can't, if you're not nice to people, you just won't get rebooked on these things. You'll get 86th, you're taken off the menu and it's not a big scene. So going around and you have to try and be as good a person as you possibly can. Is there anybody that you think I should speak to in New Zealand that, either promoters or I want to sort of really widen the scope of these talks and just talk to everybody who's involved, no matter who they are. I was thinking like sound engineers or photographers. Maybe I'm going to get into. Maybe we should just talk offline at some point. And if you've got some suggestions for people that I could talk to, it'd be fantastic to pick your brains on the New Zealand sort of vibe.
I'll like and subscribe, and I'll comment. Anyone else that can give suggestions to TC, comment down below.
Yeah, chuck them in the comments. Let's get what that's called? Comment. It's a call for action.
WOLFPACK.
Brap. Yeah, that's sick. On that note, bro, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I feel like I've learned a bit about you, and I'd love to hear some more of your music and stay in touch.
Yeah, I never get the opportunity to tell my story. I'm always the guy doing all the interviews. So it's good to touch upon a little bit of history of where I came from and how it all started out. So, Blessed. And I'm just excited to write more fun DnB songs, man. Like it just truly makes me so happy to do that. So, it's good that we're all able to connect.
Mate, it's sick. So, thanks so much. Appreciate your time. Big up the scene. So if you found anything in this video interesting, please smash the like button. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you can keep up to date with all that's new from me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any ideas for future videos, I read all your comments. Don't forget to join the Discord server and check the links for the samples and presets in the description. A massive big up to all the WOLFPACK and to Dan Aux. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Brat, brat, brat.